This is the Bass Blaster 12, a 2000 watt RMS subwoofer that integrates old school looks with new school performance. So stick around, because after we unbox it and give it a complete overview, we're gonna pump some sounds through it. The Bass Blaster 12 is actually the first subwoofer product of Sparked Innovations. What is Sparked Innovations? Sparked Innovations pretty much is a manufacturer of 12-volt electronics, primarily for car audio to be specific. They specialize in things like cooling fans, gauges, and digital meters. It was co-founded by this guy, Edward Lester. He's the technical director and, of course, co-founder of Sparked Innovations. And if you're like me, you probably know Ed from his YouTube channel, Sparked Ed, where he's been influencing other car audio enthusiasts for over 15 years. Ed is also the owner of Showtime Electronics, an online dealership that sells brands such as Kicker and DC Audio. The Bass Blaster 12 was actually a development made through a partnership. Edward reached out to Jacob Fuller, the founder of Sundown Audio, in order to get this project off the ground. Over at Sundown Audio, Jacob Fuller is known for creating subwoofers with advanced cooling techniques with high excursion and linear suspension, and Ed wanted some of that for his Bass Blaster. The overall objective was to give an old school look with new school performance, but let us be the judge of that. First up, I'd like to say thanks to Sparked Innovations for allowing me to get this on pre-order. I did pay my own money for this, and with that, I got some free tweeters, bullet tweeters. Never had bullet tweeters before, so I was a little stoked to get these as a free gift for pre-ordering. And yeah, I guess I can share the unboxing of this with you guys as well. These are the Sundown Audio BTR1s, and they do come with a little bit of hardware here. These are Phillips screws. Not sure why they got a little bit of rust on them, but they're there, right? At least you get them in the bag. Coupled with that would be a capacitor. I guess this can give you some type of first order crossover to protect the tweeter from low frequencies. This is a 100 volt 3.3 microfarad capacitor here. Should be all that you need. Manufacturers seem to know what they're doing. Here we go with the padding inside the box was really good, but plenty of cushion to protect this little guy during shipping. This is always great to see. Of course, you also have the plastic to protect it from weathering during shipment. The B2R1 is a handsome little fella. Got the little push terminals on the back. I didn't expect that, but again, this is my first bullet tweeter, so what do I know? This is an 8 ohm bullet tweeter, and like I said, they got those push terminals right there for a secured fit. Can't go wrong there. And it seems to have an aluminum back plate here with a black on black face. The face seemed to have a custom grill there with some Sundown Audio engraving. Those are raised letterings there on the grill. And yeah, the grill is black, and also is the center phase plug, I think that is called. Nice. And this thing got a little bit more weight than you would expect. Like I said, me being a novice, I didn't expect it to weigh that much. So I'm guessing that's indicative of build quality. So good job, Sundown Audio. Have yet to listen to them, but I am impressed by the unboxing. Speaking of unboxings, let's move on to the star of the show, the Bass Blaster 12. The Bass Blaster 12 comes packaged in manufacturer's brown box, but it kind of got all the hallmarks of something that you would see in retail, minus the color. I mean, it has the big Bass Blaster logo on there. There's little Sparky from the Sparked Innovations company right there front and center. Yeah, and it has all that information that catches your eye as you will be walking by down an aisle or so. As you guys can see by what's indicated by the checkbox, I have the Dual 2 version of the Bass Blaster 12. And once again, 12 inches, 2000 watts, 4-inch voice coil. And for extra emphasis on what was previously discussed, Jacob Fuller, engineered by Jacob Fuller's signature right there on the box. Way to go, Jacob. The Bass Blaster, like I said, comes in this box, and it actually comes double box. This is always great to see with a subwoofer that weighs this much. But let's face it, I do have my own preferences, and this white styrofoam is not great to see. I can't stand this stuff. It usually cracks during shipping and it gets everywhere. Sundown Audio is notorious for putting this in them boxes, and I can't stand it. But it gets the job done. I never had an issue with shipping from Sundown or anyone else that actually uses this stuff, aside from it making a mess in my office. The Bass Blaster does come covered completely in plastic, which is always great to see. I will always emphasize that. You see a company doing it the right way, always point it out and giving them kudos for that. There she is in all her glory. Very chrome. I like that. Even the dust cap is chrome with white logo and lettering. I did not expect a white logo and lettering on chrome, but it's kind of growing on me. You must appreciate how they executed the blue surround on this thing. It was going for the early 90s and 2000s look and feel when a lot of companies was putting a lot of color into the subwoofers back in the days, and I think they nailed it. This hue is called Sparked Blue. That's what they're calling it over on the website, and that's what I'm going to call it in this review. It's closely related to a baby blue, and it's a good contrast with the dual dark blue stitching for the surround. Really love the look of the cone. The Bass Blaster has an open basket design with a very large spider assembly. This thing looks like it's around 10 inches or so. Should be plenty of real estate for the throw that this thing is promising that it has, which is 25 millimeters of X-Max one way and 50 millimeters of X-Max of X-Mech one way. So that's over 4 inches of mechanical travel peak to peak. I must say that the mesh on the motor assembly is really giving me old school vibes right here, and I think they nailed it on the appearance of this thing. This is a single spider assembly, believe it or not, but just know that this thing is stiff as a brick. Later on, I will give some comparisons to a subwoofer that I have in-house so you guys can get a better ideal of what this is closely related to in terms of size. And instead of going with a high wide road surround, they actually went with a tall surround. This right here actually allots for more cone area, and I'm glad to see this. This is a really good option. Once again, very, very indicative or very familiar of some Sundown Audio subwoofers, and rightfully so, since Jacob got his hands all over this thing. Look like the Bass Blaster has borrowed the exact tensile leads of that of the X12 series over from Sundown Audio. These are quad leads. That means you have 4 individual flat woven leads per terminal. Okay, that's per terminal. So that'll give you a total of 16 flat woven leads for this subwoofer spider assembly. Is that a little bit of copper I'm looking at right there? I can't really tell. Is that a CCA coil? Black aluminum CCA coil? I don't know. Maybe it's just the aluminum with a little bit of that paint shining through a bit. But looks like a black aluminum voice coil, but I'm wanting to lean more toward copper clad aluminum from the looks of things. Either way, a 4-inch voice coil is massive, and it should handle that 2000 watts RMS with no problem. Massive triple joint here on this thing, and like I said, that spider on it seems to be about 10 inches or so, and it is a linear row spider, believe it or not. Another option that I've seen on some Sundown Audio subwoofers as well. I believe that these are 4-gauge push terminals here that they have opted for, and that should give you no problem with getting 2 10-gauge wires in this here with no problem with parallel wiring. And this is what I'm telling you. I'm leaning in on this thing, trying to give you guys a view of the voice core right here. And this thing is stiff as a brick, man. To be a single spider, it's very, very stiff. which is great to see if you're gonna go with a single solution. And looking through the mesh here, I think I can see 2 slugs for the magnet assembly up underneath this mesh, and that should be plenty of power to push this thing home. And there's a closer look for you guys through the mesh, and like I said, I think I see 2 slugs up under there. 2 massive slugs to be more specific. And right here, I'm just trying to keep it true to what I said for you guys earlier. This is an 8 gauge piece of wire here from, I believe, Sky High Audio. You guys know that they kind of sometimes oversize their wires, but I kind of just wanted to give you guys a picture of how much slack is left in this push terminal once you get an 8 gauge wire inside of it. Just to kind of give you a clear picture that 2 10 gauge wires should go in there with no problem. Parallel wiring this thing should be no problem. So leave a comment in the sections below if you guys think that they nailed it with the appearance and aesthetics of this thing. Does this capture the old school styling that we knew back in the 90s and early 2000s? Did they capture that? In my opinion, I think they did, but hey, opinions are subjective, right? I want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Look at the booty on Judy. So let's get a few measurements going here. The back of this thing is massive. You're talking around 9 inches or so. It doesn't look like it on camera, but I could have sworn that I measured close to 9 inches, but it looks like it's about 8.5 on camera. And the pole vent right here is around 1 3/4 of an inch, but it's flared all the way out to around 2 3/4 of an inch. This is plenty of venting, and I believe you have around 16 micro holes that they have drilled out for the voice coil gap. And this is one of the most quiet suspensions that I've ever heard on a subwoofer, and you guys are gonna see that in the upcoming demo of this. One gripe I do have about the Bass Blaster is that this massive hole has no type of filtering in it. I wish I could have seen some mesh in here. They used to do this back in the day. Some subwoofer companies did, and I wish they would have integrated this into this subwoofer as well, just to keep debris out of it, out of the voice coil gap. And this is always my favorite part right here, watching how the suspension moves and flexes. This large spider assembly that they have on here does a very good job at allowing this thing to do what it needs to do. If I'm not mistaken, I once heard Jacob Fuller say that he wanted to keep the linear roll on there so that he can keep up with his SQ compliances. Think he nailed it on this. And then just in case you guys needed to see that in real time, this is what it looks like. This thing moves a lot of air, man. Let's see that from the front. Put a little bit more power through it. It looks like a little bit over 1,000 watts free air. Not too bad. Let's play a little bit of music now. I don't think I put enough emphasis on how tough this dust cap is. This dust cap is thick, and I hope you guys can get the impression by hearing me tap on it. Okay, this is a brand new subwoofer just released, and for everyone out there that's wondering, like, hey, how big is this thing? Like, what can I compare it to? Well, what you're looking at right now is my Scar Audio VXF 12. When I first looked at the Bass Blaster, the first thing that stood out for me was the basket. And I knew I had seen this basket somewhere before, and the reason being is because this basket actually is shared by my favorite subwoofer from Scar Audio. The VXF12 is a 1500 watt RMS subwoofer with a 3-inch voice coil and an FS of 32 Hertz. Now, let me get something clear. This is not a performance comparison between these two subwoofers. As a matter of fact, these two subwoofers are very different. The Scar subwoofer have an RMS rating of 1500 watts, whereas the Bass Blaster has an RMS rating of 2000 watts. The Scar Audio subwoofer has a 3-inch voice coil. The Bass Blaster has a 4-inch voice coil. It also has a metal mounting ring with an aluminum dust cap. These are two different build qualities that just so happen to share the same basket. Aside from the basket, these two subwoofers are very different. The Bass Blaster has a proprietary mesh covering the grill, which gives it that old school look. I like the look of the mesh, though it's not perfect. It still gives the look and feel of the overall old school style, and I love that. It has a single spider, which is something that I was kind of shocked to see. But when I tell you that this spider is stiff as it can get, you would be surprised once you touch it with your own hands. And of course, the Scar VXF has a double spider assembly, but it's actually softer than that of the Bass Blaster. The Bass Blaster does share the 4-gauge push terminals like that of the Scar. They both do have those easeability of parallel wiring this thing. You can easily get two 10-gauge wires in there to do your parallel wiring. And they both also have very large spiders. I should say that I think the spiders on these things are around 10 inches or so. But if you look at the surrounds are different. The Bass Blaster have that type of surround that you find on some of the Sundown audio surrounds, and I like that surround, which is more tall than it is wide. If you look at the back plates of these subwoofers, they're also very, very different. Look at the back plate of the Scar Audio, which is not something to laugh at or to skimp over. Is plenty of venting for that subwoofer in its 3-inch voice coil. But with a 4-inch voice coil, you need something like this. This thing's have a chamfered, flared pole vent right here, which is very much needed for this type of application that has a 2000 watt RMS rating. Once again, this is not a comparison between these two subwoofers, just giving you something familiar to look at. If you look at the cone assembly, however, they do look very similar, but I can say that the Bass Blaster cone seems to be a bit more rigid, like they added something to it. And once again, this is something that you would only notice if you had this subwoofer in hand. I cannot leave without making a remark about the style in which the Sparked Innovations is engraved on the rear of this subwoofer. I think they did an excellent job, and I just wanted to point that out as well. And here's another look at the coil on the Scar Audio VXF12. The triple joint there, very nice, plenty of glue, copper voice coil. Again, 3-inch, 1500 watt voice coil, whereas over here, the triple joint on this thing is just extra thick for some reason. And the coil over here seems to be a black aluminum or maybe copper clad aluminum. All right, so we back in the Impala, and right now what we have up in here is this guy. That's the Bass Blaster 12 by Sparked Innovations. In the kick, we have the mini bass meter by SPL Lab. This is what we're going to be using to get our decibel scores. Our SPL scores are measured in decibels. That's what this device is for. To test real world power, we're going to be using the SMD AMM1. This is an audio multimeter by Steve Mead Designs. To power the unit, we're going to be using the TARAM Smart 8 bass. This is an 8,000 watt amplifier. It should give this thing all it needs. All right, so next we're going to be running a bass sweep through it. The bass sweep is going to be from 150 hertz down to 20 hertz. Let's go. All right, that was that was 949 watts at 2 ohms of impedance. But that's not what we care about. In the kick, we got a 134.9, but we don't care about that. The metric that we care about is at what frequency did it reach that. So let's go through our mode. 32 hertz. This subwoofer like low frequencies. This box is actually tuned to 32 hertz, which is great to see. So let's put the application on 32 hertz and see how much power we can get out of it. Okay, so we now have the application on 32 hertz. Let's see what this guy can do at 32 hertz. Here we go. Come on. That's 3,988 watts at 2.8 ohms of impedance. In the kick, we got 142.8. So now we're gonna turn the box around and see what we can get from there. Second bass sweep, rear facing into the trunk. All right, so that's about 345 watts. Yes, it did, so 126. Okay, let's keep going. 36 hertz, wow, okay, so forward facing 32 hertz, rear facing 36 hertz. So we're gonna run it at 36 hertz, rear facing. All right, so the application's on 36 hertz. Let's get this going. It wants 36 hertz, so we're gonna keep an eye on the power and see what we can get out of this thing. All right, that's 4,992 watts at 2.2 ohms of impedance. And we got a 141 in the kick. That's a 141 in the kick. And yeah, we can run that again. All right, 36 hertz. All right, let's get this stopped. Same thing, 141. That's kind of strange. Usually you turn it around and get a little louder. This thing here is getting a little lower. Maybe that's the coil heating up, I don't know. But anyway, those are my results for the BudgetBassHead 12. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks for visiting the channel to help you simplify car audio. It's the BudgetBassHead, and I'm out.